Good evening. Welcome to the City of Battle Creek, Michigan, and the Battle Creek City Commission meeting. May 14th, 2024. It is 7 p.m. Thank you for being here. We're going to have a moment of silence for our invocation, and then we're going to move right into our Pledge of Allegiance, and I'll call upon the Vice Mayor, Sherry Sophia, to lead us in the pledge. If you're able to, please stand for the invocation. Vice Mayor Sophia.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much, Vice Mayor. First item on our agenda is a roll call. Madam Clerk, when you're ready.
Commissioner Ballard.
Present.
Commissioner Lance.
Here.
Commissioner Morris. Here. Commissioner O'Donnell.
Here.
Mayor Banky.
Here.
Commissioner Reynolds.
Present.
Commissioner Simmons.
Here.
Commissioner Smith.
Present.
And Vice Mayor Sophia.
Here.
Thank you.
We have one proclamation this evening, a proclamation for ALS Awareness Month. And we have a representative of this here. Supposed to be a representative. All right, I'm going to ask Commissioner Simmons to come down front. Okay. And maybe we can talk about it ourselves. Chris, now is ALS Lou Gehrig's disease, or is that a name that is associated with that?
So ALS stands for alateral sclerosis. The A has a definition for it too. It's a really long word. I struggle with pronouncing, but better known as Lou Gehrig's disease. And not only did baseball great Lou Gehrig suffer from this disease, but you might recognize Stephen Hawking, the astrophysicist. He struggled with that disease and took his life not too long ago, but he struggled with that for many years. So I had a constituent from Ward 4 that reached out to me earlier this week, and their family was impacted by ALS. And May is ALS Awareness Month. And so we agreed to, I reached out to the mayor and the city manager, and they agreed to put together a proclamation making May ALS Awareness Month in the city of Battle Creek.
Well, Chris, I want to thank you. And this is just one way that we can get the word out to the citizens of Battle Creek about a disease that, is it 10,000 people annually, 20,000 people annually die? I had a personal friend that went to St. Philip High School and graduated in '76, and he came down with this his last 18 years of his life. And he ended up in a wheelchair with all type of mobile devices around him. But Butch Vaughn, a lot of people would know Butch. I'll never forget when he graduated from high school, he hitchhiked out to California. That's the first thing he did. And I couldn't understand it, but I guess it's a trend. But anyway, we want to say thank you very much to the constituent that called and the ALS local organization. We appreciate their involvement too. Next item on our agenda is the presentation. I'm going to turn it over to Ted Deering at this time.
Thank you, Mayor. And as the commission knows, we on a quarterly basis provide an update on the budget, and our Revenue Services Director, Aaron Kuhn, is here to give you the update through March.
Thanks, Ted. Thanks, Mayor, Vice Mayor, Commissioners, and Ted for the opportunity to present and discuss with you the interim financial statements for the 9 months ending March 31st, 2024. PDF of my report was attached to the agenda. This report highlights the general fund, but also presents the major and local street funds as well as the water and sewer funds. Since we're 3/4 of the way through the year, this is the time when we should be looking at the 75% number as a benchmark on both the revenue and expenditure sides. Income tax revenues have decreased compared to the same 9-month period a year ago As I indicated in my report, this is largely a timing issue based on when returns are received. When reviewing income tax receipts through April 2024, the 4.8% decrease that you see in the report flipped to a 4.8% increase. As we mentioned in our budget workshop, city staff continue to monitor this closely given how a number of local employers continue to utilize remote or hybrid work options. Recreation revenues are 7.54% higher than the same time period 1 year ago. Another bright spot is interest income, which is nearly double prior year earnings. This is due in large part to the current interest rate environment, as well as a more proactive approach to investing. Overall, revenue is at 80.9% of budget, which is an increase of 4.08% or $1.6 million in actual dollars compared to the same period 1 year ago. Also included in the narrative report are several charts comparing revenues and expenditures to the prior year for general fund, major and local streets, and water and sewer. Water and sewer expenditures, as you can tell in the report, have increased dramatically over the prior year based on a number of capital improvement projects that are underway across the city. In fiscal year 24, the general fund budgeted use of ARPA funds of $1.7 million for lost revenue. We talked about this in our workshop. It's anticipated that not all of this will be needed for the current year. Staff will continue to evaluate the performance of the general fund, over these last 3 months of the year to determine how much of the $1.7 million will be used in fiscal year 24. And there's a deadline looming of December 31st, 24, at which point 100% of our ARPA funds must be obligated. And at this point, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions? Hearing you doing well. No questions. Thank you very much for the good report. Next item on our agenda is chair noting any added or deleted resolutions.
There were none.
Thank you very much. Next item on our report is petitions, communications, and reports.
There were none.
Thank you very much. Next item on our agenda is the public hearing. Madam Clerk, when you're ready.
This public hearing is for the purpose of receiving public comment on an application for an industrial facilities tax exemption certificate, or IFT, on behalf of FCIP South Park 2 LLC for the property located at 201 Watkins Road, Battle Creek, Michigan, in Industrial Development District Number 40.
Declare the public hearing open. I see the developers here. Greg, do you want to come forward and tell us about your development?
Good evening, everybody. Pleasure to see everyone today. So I'm with Industrial Partners USA, representing phase 2 of what is a total of 79 acres that will be completed for an industrial park at exit 92 and 994. I started the project back in 2019 with phase 1, going right into COVID, and we had some success with that project, landing Zoetis as an anchor tenant to that park. With that project in particular, we did have tax abatement as we're requesting today, and in that case, the tenant did not use it. With tax abatements, the developer does not benefit from those. It's strictly a abatement given to the tenant when they are paying their taxes. It's only for qualified tenants, so it has to be a manufacturing company, not any type of distribution company. And it keeps Battle Creek competitive at the end of the day. So when you look at other surrounding municipalities, Kalamazoo in particular, or even heading east towards Jackson or Marshall, these are opportunities to stay competitive for the developer, for the city, to be able to attract the right types of tenants in manufacturing, inside of distribution tenants even, that don't have claim to that. Some things that we've done to help support Battle Creek since we've started this project. With phase 1, we hired 70% local labor for our entire project. We worked closely with Battle Creek Unlimited and other local forces. I'm sorry, Robert, thank you. To put that together and really go through a pretty strict bid process. With phase 2 that we've just started, we hired 80% of local labor with phase 2. And that again was a strict bid process, so that was not best price one by any means. That was something that we went through and we meticulously worked to make sure that we were drawing in as much labor from a local pool as we could. And phase 3 will be just the same, again at 80%. We have a little over $14 million of investment going into this phase 2, and phase 3 will be an equal amount with an identical mirror image of the building going on. Happy to answer any questions for you.
Okay, we'll get to that. Thank you very much, Craig. Are there any other public comments at this time? Yes, Robert?
All right, good evening, Mr. Mayor, City Commissioners. My name is Robert Corder. I am the Vice President for Attraction at Battle Creek Unlimited. I apologize if I repeat some of what Greg said, but our remarks are very similar. So I'm here tonight to speak on behalf of BCU in support of Industrial Partner USA's application for a speculative tax abatement for the currently under construction building on Watkins Road. As you know, BCU was established in 1972 for the purpose of attracting companies to Battle Creek and creating jobs. For most of our history, we have focused our efforts on the industrial park. Since its creation more than 50 years ago, the Fort Custer Industrial Park has become the economic engine for Battle Creek. Today it is home to nearly 90 companies, representing 25 international firms from Austria, Canada, China, Denmark, Germany, and Japan. Companies in the industrial park collectively employ approximately 13,000 people, accounting for a third of Battle Creek's total 41,000 jobs. More than half of the people who work in the industrial park, approximately 7,000 people, reside within the corporate limits of the city of Battle Creek. The average salary for employees working in the industrial park is $51,000 a year, or approximately $24.50 an hour. Fort Custer Industrial Park employees earn nearly Fort Custer employee earnings total nearly $700 million annually and contribute over $4 million in income tax to the city of Battle Creek each year. Companies in the industrial park are estimated to have $5 billion in direct economic impact and $1 billion in indirect impact each year. This is approximately 75% of the total economic output for the city of Battle Creek. Why does this matter? Because property tax abatements, like the one Industrial Partners is seeking tonight, have played a key role in helping to bring companies to Battle Creek. The Fort Custer Industrial Park, with all of its companies and jobs, would not have been possible without tax abatements on similar industrial facilities. In a small market like Battle Creek, this is an absolutely necessary tool for attracting new investments. The project under consideration tonight is a spec building, meaning it is being developed without a committed tenant. This requires a sizable upfront investment from the developer and represents a significant risk. This is Industrial Partners' second building in Battle Creek. The first building was completed in 2022 and has 270,000 square feet of space. This new building will initially feature 252,000 square feet of space with an additional 252,000 feet planned at a later date. When complete, the company expects to invest more than $25 million in the building, which is in addition to the $11 million that has already been invested. I would encourage you to vote in favor of the abatement tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Robert. Appreciate it. Are there any other public comments on the public hearing? Yes, Adam Smith.
Good evening. We already know you're going to vote 8-1. Jake's going to be the only one to vote against it because you guys like to give out tax abatements to corporations and not give the citizens who were elected to represent any tax abatement. He just gave some remarkable numbers, which shows they have money in the bank to pay for taxes like the rest of us. I've given an explanation of my feelings about this before. If they can prove themselves, then yeah, maybe on paper, give them a little bit of a break. But we've had numerous people walk in here time after time making empty promises about we're going to this, we're going to that, we're going to this. We have no form of checks and balances to prove if they were able to do that, to show if they're able to create the jobs that they promised to create, to prove that they're able. But I just heard all these large numbers. They don't need a tax abatement. Your citizens could enjoy a tax abatement once in a while. They're not making billions of dollars. Maybe if they had a tax abatement, they would be able to invest more in the city. They'd be able to put their money towards businesses in the city. But unfortunately, with inflation and everything else, and the cost of, everything going up, people can't pay their bills. Bail out the citizens once in a while. We're the ones that elected you, not them. Thank you.
Are there any other public comments? Yes, David?
David Moore. I talk on these tax breaks. I heard Shake a couple of weeks ago. Given these tax breaks, and the city of Battle Creek's losing money, and the taxpayers paying a great deal of taxes. And I think these companies are giving all these tax abatements or tax breaks to these companies. We need money in Battle Creek. We should give so much tax breaks. I don't know a whole lot about this. I haven't got much chance to study on it, what I see here tonight, but I'm kind of in question of these tax breaks we give these people. So I think we need, City of Battle Creek needs money, and we got things to work with. I heard you, Jay, a couple of weeks ago, and I kind of agree with what you have said up there. Thank you.
Thank you, David. Any other public comment on the public hearing? Any other public comment on the public hearing? Seeing none? Any commission comment on the public hearing? Commissioner Jake Smith.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll save my lengthy comments for when the motion's before the commission. However, I heard a lot of numbers thrown around regarding local labor, but I'm looking at the November 21st, 2023 minutes of the BC TIFA. This is a quote I'm about to read. Mr. Sabareski stated that phase 1 is complete. The building is filled as Zoetis. True, true. During this construction phase 1, no local labor was used. This is from the minutes. The November 21st Battle Creek Tax Increment Financing Authority minutes here. So is it no labor? Is it a bunch of local labor? What is it? That was right out of the horse's mouth there. So I'll reserve my remaining comments for later in the meeting. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
You're welcome. Thank you. Any other commission comments? Seeing none, we'll declare the public hearing closed. We'll go to our next public hearing. Madam Clerk, when you're ready.
This public hearing is required by federal statute and in the city's Citizen Participation Plan for the Community Development Block Grant and Home Investment Partnership Programs to receive public comments on the proposed use of funds in the 2024 program year, July 1, 2024 to June 30, 2025.
Declare the public hearing open. Helen, do you want to come forward and say anything, or?
I'm Helen Guzzo, manager of City of Battle Creek. I apologize. It's unforgivable mistake there. It has been a long day. I am supervisor of the Community Development Block Grant Program and the Home Investment Partnership Program for the City of Battle Creek. The city gets about $1.2 million in CDBG dollars. We spend about half of it in the minor home repair program. We also, it has been a long day. We support, and then in the home program, we support tenant-based rental assistance through Neighborhoods, Inc. And then we also have, in this proposal for this funding is going to fund Habitat for Humanity and the new construction. They have a cross from Lamora Park Elementary School. They're completing work on 12 North Cedar, and the city would be funding 8 North Cedar and 25 Woodlawn, so 2 new projects, single-family homes for low-income homeowners. So just looking forward to comment on how we're going to spend CDBG and home dollars in the coming year. Thank you.
Thank you, Helen. Are there any public comments at this time? Yes.
Reese Atkins, 3600 West Michigan Avenue. I looked at where the money was that the postage was on Facebook. And what I don't see, and I brought it up to the commissioners before, is helping out those that have felony charges that are unable to find a place to live. I went down to the Sheriff's Center. The gentleman gave me an application and said, go out there and they will give you a place to live. I took one look at the application. The very first question on the application is, do you have a felony charge? And it says right in fine print, if you have a felony charge, we will not take you. So again, all this money is being spent, which is fine and dandy, but you've got people out there that have felony charges that right now, if it wasn't for family members, friends, or anything like that, they would have no place to live. Let's truly look at those people and help them out, because like with myself, if it wasn't for my soon-to-be mother-in-law allowing us to stay at the house, I would have no place to live, because what little bit of money I have, the places that would take me that are income-based see that felony charge and they say, sorry, we can't help you. So I would be out on the street, which would increase your homeless population. So please, take a look at the felony people that you have inside the city of Battle Creek and help us out. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any other public comment at this time? Yes, John.
John Kennefic, 234 South Avenue. I'm going to speak in regards to the block grant dollars. Everything that has to do with money coming from the federal government is always wonderful. This is going to help people out. It won't help everybody out, but it's wonderful. The problem here that people don't take into consideration is that money is coming from the federal government. Where do they get it from? Only two different sources. One is they're coming from the taxpayers, so the taxpayer is paying for this, or the money doesn't exist in the first place, and it's run into the debt. So even though it's helping people out, there's a cost that ends up going against the taxpayers of the United States. That's who's paying for this. Now, right now, this moment, if you look at the U.S. debt clock, you know it's heading towards $35 trillion. It's not there yet, but it's on its way. About halfway or a little better than halfway. And every tax-paying citizen in the United States owes back $266,000 minimum. And that's from programs like this, which are wonderful programs, and they've got a lot of them, but there's always a cost that comes back. And that cost is what bites people in the neck, or the pocketbook, or a lot of different things. Housing can be affected by this. All kinds of things can be affected by this. We think that we're getting something for nothing, but in reality, it's not that way. And one little last thing just to take into consideration about debts. I mentioned the $34 trillion plus dollars. The uninsured debt liability, which is Social Security, they say in 10 years it's going to be bankrupt. Currently at this moment, it's more than 6 times the U.S. debt. If it hits at the federal level per taxpayer, from $266,000 per taxpayer to $288,000 per taxpayer, about $20,000 more per taxpayer, every citizen in the United States will owe back to the federal government more than $2 million. So even though these programs are wonderful, and I never argue with them because, boy, that's really a losing fight on my end, I'm just trying to explain to everyone there's a cost. And I don't think the federal government, which basically is purchasing people or its own population for its own good or the good of the government, you will reelect people and then things will get bigger and bigger, and pretty soon people won't be able to go to buy a loaf of bread because it's only $3,000 a loaf. So please take that into consideration. I'm not saying anything's wrong with the block grant dollars, except for the code department. I can't stand them. Other than that, they're useless people that could really take that money and actually rebuild the entire city of Battle Creek. Thank you.
Yes, Kathy Antea, and then we'll go to David Moore.
Kathy Antea, Park Ridge, thank you. Lots of money in this package on lots of items that I feel strongly about, but in particular, I would like to address the permanent supportive housing item. I believe that was the last one on the list. And that's a kind of a tiny number compared to a lot of the other ones. And I also know that it's supposed to be the gap filler to entice the contractors here to do permanent supportive housing. And I'd just like to remind everybody that at least twice, I think, we've failed to do permanent supportive housing because it hasn't necessarily been a customer-informed, customer and consumer and community-driven effort. In other words, I think that if we start sooner rather than later to talk to the people who know about permanent supportive housing, the people in town that are doing that kind of work already, that are working with the unhoused, unless we talk to them first and find a good spot for this permanent supportive housing, I'm afraid we're going to see another failure. And I would not like to see that. So those are my simple comments. Thank you.
Thank you, Kathy. David?
I have gave comments before. We talk about things cost a big deal of money. Like thousands of dollars that John talked about here. But we always seem to have the money to help out our recreation purposes, our upper class business out. It comes to the low class people at our housing, and people's gotta have homes, and there's people's gotta have homes, they gotta live, and they gotta have help to get by. I think I mentioned a lot of this before. I kind of see this in this issue here, and if we can help out these recreational things and these benefit things, if we can help these poor people out too, it's a 50-50 deal. One's equals the other.
Thank you, David. Any other public comment at this time? Yes, ma'am.
Nadine Bradshaw, 3600 West Michigan Avenue. I'd like to say that there are 18 to 30-year-olds who are still living at home with their parents. Many of us actually have a job or two jobs or a criminal background that gets denied for these houses. So my comment is there are many of us, there's a large number of us that are left out and marginalized due to these affordable houses that keep being claimed to be built. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other public comment or comments for the public hearing? Yes, ma'am.
Becky Holmgren. I actually do not live in the city limits at the moment, but I do work in the city limits, and I'm a lifelong resident.
Well, ma'am, you can still speak here.
I figured. That's why I'm here.
Thank you.
So I actually have a couple of questions about some of this money. I'm not totally prepared because this kind of got on my radar late.
And just so you know, we're not going to answer the questions, but we will have some in contact. Thank you.
So you have costs here for general administration on both fundings and one for management studies, et cetera. My question is, for general administration, are not these people already paid by the city? Are they not already employees, or are they contracted out? I don't even know this, so I just put that out there. If they're already employees of the cities, why are we partitioning out more money to pay them? Do they get paid extra? Just a question. I'm a bookkeeper, so these things pop in my head. Then you had money here for code enforcement, especially in blighted and distressed areas. Again, it's on a similar line. Are we going to get more code enforcement people Is this more for administrative people to run the paperwork? It's not very clear here to me. Let's see, what else do I have in here? Oh, and the 85,000 for infill housing, I actually had to look that up because I had no clue what that was. So it's new construction on vacant land. And one of the things I read was, is it similar style as homes in the neighborhood? Again, are we putting, $250,000 homes in a neighborhood where the homes are maybe $70,000? This is, then you get into the what's it called, gentrification? I don't remember how to pronounce it. Anyway, so that's another issue. And I agree with several people here that a lot of the funding, I've heard all my life, affordable housing. We're going to build affordable housing. There's several issues with that. Whose version of affordable? Your version of affordable, my version of affordable, and their version of affordable could all be totally different. So this is an issue. We need low-income housing. I agree with people who are ex-felons, or they're still felons, but they've done their time. Not being able to get homes, to me, this is so ridiculous. How are they supposed to live? How are they supposed to restart their lives if they don't have a basic place where they can feel safe, wanted? They can't be productive in their community if, oh, sorry, I'm out of time.
That's all right. Now, ma'am, just so you know, if you make a card out with your name and address and put the questions on it, we will answer your questions. But if you don't, then we're not going to answer them. All right?
Okay, well, I just wanted to bring them up because you
Thank you.
maybe already know. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other public comment at this time? Remind me, Autumn, have you already spoken on this? No, it was on the industrial. All right, that's what I thought.
I agree with what that lady said before. The term that I think she was lacking to say, I don't want to put words in her mouth about I saw the numbers too, about the administrative costs and paying all these people things that they already are employed to do and stuff, is called money laundering. Let's just call it what it is. You guys have this money and you have to appropriate it some way, somehow, and you guys are enriching yourselves more than you're actually enriching the community by putting the money where it's supposed to go, because all this administrative funds, $180,000, that could help some affordable housing costs. And also, when you are appointing money for certain services and stuff, that money has to continue to be maintained, and we're not going to be continuing to get this money, so how are you going to continue to fund these jobs that you guys are saying you guys need to maintain this project? I'll just quote Ronald Reagan. The 9 most dangerous words that you can hear from the government are, "I'm from the government and I'm here to help." Thank you.
Are there any other public comments for this public hearing? Seeing none, any commission comments? Seeing none, we'll declare the public hearing closed. Next item on our agenda is the adoption of ordinance. Madam Clerk, when you're ready.
The City of Battle Creek adopted the International Fire Code, or IFC, in May of 2000. The IFC is amended every 3 years, and this may require the city to amend Chapter 1610 to reflect the current version of the IFC, as is the case in this proposed ordinance amendment. The city can also amend portions of the IFC through Chapter 1610 as needed to fit the unique needs of the city. Many of the Chapter 1610 proposed amendments are necessary to reflect changes found in the 2024 IFC, as well as those required by state law. This resolution seeks to adopt Ordinance 05-2024 to amend Sections 1, 3, 5, 6, and 99, and repeal Sections 4 and 98 of Chapter 1610 of City Ordinances, International Fire Code, and to comply with state law and regulations.
I move to accept ordinance number 4300.
Support. Been moved and supported to adopt ordinance 05-2024. Are there any public comments at this time? Are there any public comments? Seeing none, are there any commission comments? Seeing none, would you please vote on the adoption of ordinance 05-2024? The adoption of ordinance 05-2024 has been approved. Thank you. Next item on our agenda is resolution 431, to adopt ordinance 06-2024. Madam Clerk, when you're ready.
On April 29, 1980, the City Commission adopted Ordinance 286, Police Community Relations Advisory Committee. An initial board was appointed. Amendments were made to Section 04 membership in February of '83. Members were appointed to the board for several years, but this has not happened for several decades, and the board has been dormant for approximately 30 years. With the onboarding of the city's DEI officer, a new focus began on such a board. The decision was made to amend Chapter 286 rather than adopting a new chapter and allowing a dormant committee to remain in the ordinances. On April 24, 2023 and December 5, 2023, City Commission workshops took place to discuss the essence of this proposed board and seek community input. The DEI officer has undertaken many community conversations, surveys, and meetings with community stakeholders that have helped inform the structure of this proposed board. This resolution seeks to adopt amended ordinance number 06-2024 to amend Chapter 286, Police Community Relations Advisory Committee, by repurposing it as the Community Oversight Board with the primary function to provide input in an advisory committee to the city manager in reconsidering the police chief's determination following a community relations complaint investigation filed pursuant to the police department policy.
I move to accept ordinance number 431.
Support. It's been moved and supported to adopt ordinance 06-2024. Are there any public comments at this time? First, I'm going to give Ms. Holly an opportunity to speak if she wants to. If she doesn't want to, she can just wave me off.
I just think it's important to indicate that this was actually a community-driven effort that was led a couple of years ago by the NAACP, and the DEI office has helped to steward this process through to consideration by the City Commission. I just want to make sure people know that this was truly a community-driven effort.
Thank you very much. Autumn Smith, please.
As I've stated before, I spoke and supported this when it was first introduced, and I think it's a good thing because, like, when there's an incident in the community that needs to be addressed, like, I'll just give a hypothetical. Let's just say, like, last commission meeting, there was a tornado thing going off, and people's phones were going off. And there was a lawful order given by the chief of police to stay in place. He was talking with the emergency manager and that it was going to pass and all of this. And then 3 commissioners gave contradictory statements in violation of that lawful order that was given by the chief of police. First, Mr. Banky said, let's take a break, and those that want to go to the basement can go to the basement. Chief Bagley stated, it's fine, we're in touch with the emergency manager. Then Mr. O'Donnell stated, let's take a 30-minute recess, and those that want to go home can go home. Nobody was being held here against their will because that would be kidnapping. And also, in an emergency, you're not supposed to leave. You don't want traffic out there to impede with emergency vehicles. Then Mr. Smith motioned to adjourn the meeting. Mr. Ballard seconded it. There was no vote, and chaos ensued. The fire chief then was instructing people to get on an elevator in an emergency to go down to the basement. So if I was a citizen, I would make a complaint, and I would hope this board would review. The crimes that I saw that were committed that day were 3 possible disturbing the peace by the mayor, Mr. O'Donnell, Jake. The fire chief endangered the public safety by telling them to take an elevator down in an emergency, and all of you disobeyed a lawful order given by the chief of police. So you guys set a precedent by basically saying, you know, when a law officer gives an instruction to stay in place or something like that, you can disregard it. So I think a good board would open up communication for instances such as that, just hypothetical. Thanks.
Are there any other public comments? Yes, John.
John Kennevic, 234 South Avenue. I'll try to be very brief on this, less than hopefully 60 seconds. First of all, the DEI was paid for from ARPA money, which is again federal money, and it's now being paid for by the citizens of Battle Creek. I was curious what the cost of the DEI officer is. That's kind of interesting because every time I find new jobs being created when they don't have to be, that's an excess strain on the taxpayers. Finally, one of the concepts here is that there's what's called meritocracy. It's a pretty long word. And basically it means that you don't hire anybody except for the person that's the greatest qualified. If DEI takes the lesser qualified person, one, it's going to open everyone up for a lawsuit, and number two, you're not getting the same results as if you had a better capable person that you took over somebody else. And that's kind of a discriminatory process, possibly for lawsuits. Thank you.
Any other public comments? Yes, Mary?
Mary Bourgeois, 231 Springview. I just want to echo Ms. Holly's comments. I don't know how many sessions I participated with Mr. Kerry Whitfield. So much blood, sweat, and tears went into developing this review commission, and I really appreciate his efforts as well as those of Chuck Ash. I'm surprised he's not here today, so thank you, and I appreciate all the time and effort that the City Commission has put into finally bringing this to fruition. Thank you.
Thank you, Mary. Any other public comment? See none or any commission comments? Sorry, I didn't see your hand, David.
David Moore, I'm going to mention something I have said a number of times before. I think half the people in here doesn't know what half of these issues are all about, or people are listening on the radio or TV. And I think we should somehow or another be more explainable to the people so everybody can understand what's going on. You guys up there in the city knows all about it, and people here, we don't know, we'll say, know nothing. But I think we're just not getting enough involvement where we can know what's going on. We're still not doing it. Thank you.
Any other public comment? All right, any commission comment? Patrick O'Donnell?
I'd just like to thank everyone that was involved. It's been a long, laborious work on this, and it looks like we're getting something that the citizens actually have requested and needed. So thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Commissioner. Any other commission comment? Commissioner Morris?
Thank you, Mayor. I would just like to thank our DEI officer for her work as she has come into this and supported the community in their efforts. I really appreciate the fresh perspective that she has brought to the city, and I appreciate her service to the Community Oversight Board.
Thank you, Commissioner. Any other commission comment? Seeing none, would you please vote on the adoption of Ordinance 06-2024? The adoption of Ordinance 06-2024 has been approved. Next item on our agenda is public comment regarding the consent agenda and resolutions not on the consent agenda. If you'd like to make public comment regarding the consent agenda and resolutions not on the consent agenda, please raise your hand and we will acknowledge you to come forward to the podium. You'll have 3 minutes to make your comments. Please state your name and address before making your comments and indicate which resolutions you're speaking to. Are there any public comments at this time? Seeing none, we'll go to commission comment regarding meeting business.
I move to accept resolution number 432. Approving the consent agenda. Sorry.
Yes, that's fine.
I'll support consenting the consent agenda.
So moved and supported to approve the consent agenda. Are there any questions by the commission? Seeing none, would you please vote on the consent agenda? The consent agenda has been approved. Next item on our agenda is Resolution 433. Madam Clerk, when you're ready.
Resolution number 70, dated January 20, 2015, approved an internet service and line maintenance contract with CTS Telecommunications Incorporated in an estimated 5-year amount of $193,265.54, with unit prices prevailing. In December 2021, CTS Telecommunications Incorporated was acquired by MetroNet. Because of this acquisition, any new contracts for fiber optic and internet service shall be made with MetroNet or their subsidiary, Climax Telephone LLC. This resolution, if approved, authorizes the city manager to execute contract number 2024-082C with MetroNet in a not to exceed 3-year amount of $76,500 to upgrade internet speed at 5 of the city's fire stations.
I move to accept resolution number 433.
Support.
It's been moved and supported to approve Resolution 433. Are there any comments by the commission? Patrick O'Donnell.
Mr. Mayor, due to the fact that I do work for MetroNet, I would like to recuse myself from this vote.
Thank you very much. Any other comments by the commission? Seeing none, would you please vote on Resolution 433? Resolution 433 has been approved. Next item on our agenda is Resolution 434. Madam Clerk, when you're ready.
Under Title I of the Housing and Community Development Act of 1974, as amended, and the Cranston-Gonzalez National Affordable Housing Act of 1990, the City of Battle Creek is required to prepare a plan that describes how the city will allocate community development block grant and home investment partnership funds to meet the needs of low and moderate income persons of Battle Creek. During the past several months, city community development staff have developed the 2024 Annual Action Plan. A public hearing was held on April 16, 2024 for the purpose of identifying housing and community development needs, and a public hearing was held on May 14, 2024 for the proposed 2024 Annual Action Plan to address housing and community development needs. This resolution seeks approval of the 2024 Annual Action Plan for the Community Development Block Grant and Home Investment Partnership Programs.
I move to accept resolution number 434.
Support.
It's been moved and supported to approve Resolution 434. Are there any comments by the commission? Seeing none, would you please vote on Resolution 434? Resolution 434 has been approved. Next item on our agenda is Resolution 435. Madam Clerk, when you're ready.
On March 19, 2024, an application was submitted on behalf of FCIP South Park 2 LLC for an industrial facilities exemption certificate, single-tenant speculative building under Act 198 of the Public Acts of 1974. The City Commission held a public hearing on the 14th of May to receive input on this request. This resolution seeks to approve an industrial facilities tax exemption certificate on behalf of FCIP South Park 2 LLC for real property located at 201 Watkins Road in Industrial District Number 40 and having an estimated cost of $14,230,440.
I move to accept resolution number 435.
Support. It's been moved and supported to approve Resolution 435. Are there any commission comments on Resolution 435? Commissioner Smith.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So you guys already know how I feel about all this. But I do want to take a few minutes to elaborate my position and hopefully convince a few of you that maybe this isn't the gamble we need to take. And I'll start with the stack of academic research that's nose high that says these things don't work. They do not create jobs. At best, they are inefficient at doing so. That's the W.E. Upjohn Institute. I shared this with you guys when we had this last round of this. Not a, some liberal think tank or whatever. 75% of these things just aren't needed. So we need to choose tonight, is this the 25 that work or the 75 that don't? And so we'll frame the circumstances a little bit. What do we know about these tax abatements in general, this particular item? First off, 12 years. I don't know what the economy is going to look like in next year, let alone 12 years from now. Why are we always approving these things for a dozen years at a time? Not an unreasonable person. I think anybody, any reasonable person would say, sure, let's give it 3 years, 4 years, and see what happens. We're not doing that. This is 12 years. Second, this is a fact. We discussed it with our council during the last time this came up. We can't revoke these things once we approve it. We can beg the state to let us do it. But we lose local control the moment we approve one of these things. What about the jobs? Well, this one here, and I'll keep in mind, folks, these things are a tool to create jobs. Full stop. This is to create jobs. We don't have an employer associated with this tax abatement. We have maybe some speculation. It might be 20 jobs, might be 200. Who knows? All we know for sure is they're going to get it for 12 years. We're not going to be able to revoke it. And, schools, our special millages, I'm talking veterans, seniors, everything, are going to get less money from this. But let's go back to the jobs for a moment here, too. The unemployment rate in Battle Creek, as far as March of this year, is 4.4%. For all the non-economists in the room, that's full employment. We will, not to suggest that there's any point we would never need jobs, but jobs aren't the problem now. Labor is the problem now. We need the people to do the jobs. And I'm not alone on this. Area Development Magazine often cited in economic development circles, the #1 issue, as far back as I've been looking, has been the availability of skilled labor. Jobs go where the people that can do the jobs are. So I don't know, this is a solution in search of a problem at this point. That's going to last 12 years, that we won't be able to undo once we do it. And we know when our folks come here and they're talking to us, they're talking about housing. They're talking about tax equity. They're talking about debt. They're talking about transportation. Nobody's asking for more industrial facilities tax exemptions for jobs that at this point in time we don't need. We need the people to do the jobs. Furthermore, we're looking at this thing here. We don't have an employer associated with it, so let's, speculate based on what was provided on the form provided. 20 to 200 jobs. Well, let's take the top end, 200 jobs. It would take 200 individuals making over $110,000 a year gross, paying a full 1% income tax to the city of Battle Creek. That means all 200 are local residents to make this thing break even. That's not going to happen. Nobody in this room believes that is going to happen here. And if it did, we wouldn't know. Because another truth about this, we cannot collect withholding information. This was a question we asked for before. If we're going to give a tax break for a company, I'd like to know, how many employees they're withholding local taxes for. You can't prove it. What do? They fill out a spreadsheet. The spreadsheet sometimes is filled out, sometimes not, but none of it's verifiable. Furthermore, when it comes down to the actual form that is completed regarding these tax abatements, I believe the section, don't quote me on the exact section, I've posted on Facebook before, so forgive me, but you fill in the jobs you think you're gonna bring, and the very next sentence there is, we're not going to hold you responsible to this because there are economic conditions outside of your control, including NAFTA, which doesn't exist anymore, but that's beside the point. So we're not even holding employers accountable to this. There's zero accountability, none. And we jettison all local control the moment we approve it, and then we wonder why people are begging us to have the buses run at night or the weekend, or have places for people to live, clean water to drink, etc. It's madness, guys, and we don't even have an employer on the hook here. We're just doling these things out, full clip, 12 years at a time, and expecting magic to happen. Well, we've been doing it this long and it's not happened, so I would implore upon my colleagues to insert some common sense into this. And one of the things, one of the economic arguments I've encountered on this, which I respect, and I think it's worth a conversation, is, well, gee, you know, if they came here and if the tax abatement was what it took to get them here, and it's better than nothing, basically. They're paying something, and it's better than nothing. Well, and that's true. But that introduces two inconvenient truths to the situation. One, it suggests that we tax residents for taxes that we don't really need. If we have enough to give away to some people, that leads me to believe that, well, maybe not everybody needs to be paying everything all the time then. If we can, you know, fork over some amount to some favored, you know, developers or, you know, whatever. And then two, to that end as well, it suggests that this facility or any other facility receiving an abatement isn't going to absorb the community services that those costs are associated with. Now, if you're going to be in this community, I can guarantee you're going to get reliable, respectful fire service, water, police service. You're entitled to all the benefits of every citizen that's paying all of their taxes. So, to conclude, I would implore upon my colleagues just to see the forest through the trees here. We're in a race to the bottom. We cannot continue to fight and make these deals because we're fighting against not some obscure entity. We're fighting against our neighbors. We're fighting against other counties for things that academic research has proved, at least to this point, are wildly inefficient, but 3/4 of the time just don't work and aren't necessary. So with that, thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. Let's conclude my comments.
Are there any other comments from the table? Are there any other comments?
Yes.
Mr. Mayor.
Commissioner Simmons.
I'm going to ask city staff, and I'm not sure if they want to call on, I'll allow you to call on the representative from BCU if so needed, for a couple points of clarification. I probably on this issue fall, and I've talked about this before, somewhere between Jake Smith and somewhere between our economic development arm, which is that my opinion is these are the tools that were given by the state, and I've talked about that. And are they the ideal things? Do they pit us against other communities in the state and in other states? At times they do, but those are the tools that we have. So when this first came on our agenda and I started reading this, I'm like, wait a second, they built the first stage of this, and right now, and I think it was mentioned this evening, that Zoetis occupies that. And I was pleased to hear that they have not availed themselves of this tax abatement, because when I drive by there, and I do frequently on 94 in that area, I'll see 2 or 3 cars out there. So they're using this as, I'm assuming, a warehouse facility, not much activity going on in there. And so they didn't avail themselves of this. So if we approve this, it's not a done deal. It depends, please explain, does it depend on what type of tenant might go in there?
Yeah, and that's exactly right, Commissioner. And I don't think that we've got somebody from the assessor's office here this evening, but this is kind of a pre-function that needs to happen in order for a potential tenant in this location at some future date to actually qualify for an IFT. And Robert or the representative from BCU may be able to correct me on this, but I don't know that it wasn't so much that the tenant in phase 1 didn't avail themselves of it, but simply didn't qualify. And so you've got to have a manufacturing client that qualifies for an IFT. And in this case, that won't happen until the building is finished and a client is identified.
So if the building's finished, the client comes in, it's, say Zoetis says, we need another warehouse. They wouldn't be eligible. There are certain tenants that would not be eligible. They have to come to us and say, hey, we're going to create a certain number, whatever range that is, 20 to 200. but then put that plan, it would come back before us.
Yeah,
Before the plan was finalized.
Before any actual abatement was approved, it would have to.
So what is the purpose of this?
Now you're a little bit beyond my expertise, Commissioner, in terms of what's required by state statute, but apparently in order for the developer to be in a position, well, in order for a future company to be in a position to be able to take advantage of this particular move is needed at this time.
Is there someone available to speak to that question?
I don't know if we've got somebody that can speak to the requirements specifically as to, yeah, go right ahead. Yep.
Thank you, Robert.
Yeah.
So there's two kinds of abatements. There's the regular industrial abatement for a company that's building and going in. This is a speculative abatement. You have 6 months from when they break ground to apply and secure it. But because it's a speculative investment, it only goes to the qualified user, as you've said. There is no jobs requirement. There's not a specific number. And that's important to recognize. Arguably, whether or not there should or should not be, that's not what's in the legislation. So there is a list of users and conditions that have to be met. It cannot just go to a logistics warehouse user. It has to be for manufacturing, R&D, a tech center. It can go to a warehouse logistics facility in certain border counties, which we are not. So there are conditions that have to be met because it is a spec development.
So this is specifically outlined, this type of,
Yes.
what we're approving here within state law.
In Michigan, PA 198, the law that sets out the conditions for a tax abatement.
And it's a limited time
You have
till
a window
tenant.
to approve it, and it has to be in place within that window for the end user to qualify. So even if the end user takes a year or two to come in, that abatement is already in place. Now, once a user is identified, they would come back to the City Commission and say, we are the qualified user, we'd like to avail ourselves of that abatement.
And while you're up here, is that parcel in the BC TIF?
Is it not in the, no.
Okay,
So
I got some
Commissioner
conflicting
Simmons, this is a
information when I was
little-
asking
No,
questions.
it's a little complicated.
Okay.
It is not part of the BC TIFA, it is part of the LDFA, which is another TIF district that BCU administers along with the BC TIFA.
That's not the Lakeview, what does that
It's
stand
the
for?
Local Development Finance Authority. It is a different district.
I guess I'm gonna have to see a map of that.
I will get you a map.
So thank you for that. And again, like I said, I'm somewhere on the fence on this. I think these aren't the greatest tools pitting up communities against one another, but it is what we have to work with.
And I think
with the state.
you're not wrong about that in a perfect world, but in markets like ours, where we are competing against our neighbors, this is one of the tools we have, and it's very important. I would say one other thing. Jake did mention something. He read from the minutes, and the minutes actually, it's not specific. It's talking about local labor, and what was implied, it's not to say that there was no local contractors. They were specifically talking about local union companies that were involved in that first phase. If you read the next sentence, it's from Steve Cladwell, who is on the Battle Creek Tax Increment Finance Authority, and he is our labor representative, and he expressed his gratitude to Joe for connecting Industrial Partners, the developer, with local developers, local union shops rather, so that they had the opportunity to be fully appraised of the project and could bid. It just happened that none of them were selected.
Thank you, because when he brought that up, I'm glad you brought that up, because that was a great question. So thank you for addressing these questions I had today.
Robert, I have one more question.
Yes, Mr. Mayor.
One of our commissioners made a mention that there is school tax captured. Is that true or false?
That's the state tax. That's not my area of expertise, but yes, the set is captured. The set is not waived. The set is something that I believe the MEDC and the state treasurer could waive. It has not been waived.
Thank you.
I've got some questions.
Commissioner Patrick O'Donnell.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. So you say this is a speculative agreement to enhance, and there's also a timeline of the 6 months since they broke ground in December. Is now we have to apply for this, or how is that? What's the timeline that we're facing here?
Again, Commissioner, I I would refer that to the city assessor's office, because that's not my area. I can't tell you exactly what the window is, but I know there is a deadline, but yeah, there is a window there. But it also has to do with when they filed, so not when we're at today, but when they initially filed, when they filed for the
Well,
process.
the reason I ask is it's a question mark because it's speculative, and
Right.
And the thing is that I don't know if who's moving in. If yes, there's some standards as we manufacturing, but what if they didn't meet our standards of the city and they moved in and took over and had a tax abatement that we didn't realize? I mean, can we revoke that tax abatement once we vote on it tonight? Because it doesn't. You know, what I'm saying it doesn't meet our standards of what we want to.
I don't understand what you mean standards.
Well,
There is an
I'm saying that
eligibility
the
standard from the state.
I'm talking about the company. We don't know what it is. Who knows what's coming in? It could be baby formula company. It could be a bomb manufacturer. I'm just throwing speculative like you ask. I don't know who the
by statute, by state law, it says what is allowable and what is not. And so as long as it meets those requirements, and it's very specific, manufacturing, technology center, R&D, logistics in certain border counties, those qualify.
Okay, no, you answered the question. So,
yeah.
But we're on a timeline. We couldn't revisit this later after somebody actually moves in and says, I would like a tax abatement.
You would have that opportunity when the company, they still have to come before the commission and make application for your final approval.
Okay.
So you would have that capacity. And again, though, they also have to meet the requirements, the eligibility requirements.
Okay, so they'll be coming before us for another approval.
Yes.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Robert?
I'd just like to say thank you, BCU. Thank you, investor, for building a building, taking the risk. You got to build the thing, get it in place, and then you'll get somebody to come in like you did with Zoetis. So wonderful. Thank you for coming to Battle Creek.
Thank you, Commissioner. Are we ready to vote? Please vote on approval of Resolution 435. Resolution 435 has been approved. Next item on our agenda is Resolution 436. Madam Clerk, when you're ready.
On July 16, 2013, the City Commission held a public hearing regarding the establishment of an obsolete property rehabilitation district, and after the hearing, approved Oprah District Number 10. On April 12, 2024, the City Assessor agreed to request a revocation of Certificate 3-22-0022 on behalf of Battle Creek Unlimited, allowing Battle Creek Unlimited to pursue new development options for the site, as the initial developer was unable to secure the necessary financing to advance the project. A transfer of the Oprah certificate would not allow for any development changes to the project. Therefore, a revocation of the certificate allows Battle Creek Unlimited to pursue new development options for the site. This resolution seeks to revoke the Obsolete Property Rehabilitation Act, OPRA, Exemption Certificate 3-22-0022 for Bijou Lofts, LLC, allowing Battle Creek Unlimited to pursue new development options for the property.
I move to accept resolution number 436.
Support.
It's been moved and supported to approve Resolution 436. Are there any comments by the Commission? Seeing none, would you please vote on Resolution 436? Resolution 436 has been approved. Next item on our agenda is Resolution 437. Madam Clerk, when you're ready.
Resolution number 24, dated 12/13/2020, approved a 3-year contract with WCA Assessing Services. They have provided excellent service since the start of their initial contract and are of great value to the city. There are no substantial scope of work changes proposed in a new contract with WCA Assessing, and if approved, a new 5-year contract would begin July 1, 2024 and end June 30, 2029. Like the original contract, there is also pricing for additional special project services in an as-needed basis and pre-approved by the city. These contracted rates, hourly rates, are classified by position. To date, we have not had to use those services, but it's important to keep them in the contract if needed. This resolution seeks authorization regarding a 5-year contract for assessing services with WCA Assessing in a not-to-exceed all-inclusive amount of $3,112,503.
I move to accept resolution number 437.
Support.
It's been moved and supported to approve Resolution 437. Are there any comments by the commission? Seeing none, would you please vote on Resolution 437? Resolution 437 has been approved. Next item on our agenda is Resolution 438. Madam Clerk.
The wastewater treatment plant has traditionally used bioxide calcium nitrate to control odors in the sanitary collection system. This product is utilized at 5 lift stations with significant flow throughout the city and contributing jurisdictions. It has been discovered that the volume of this product has steadily been increasing over the years. It is surmised that this product typically needs to be used in higher quantities the longer it is used to obtain the same odor control performance. This prompted the Sewer and Wastewater Divisions to look into alternative products to help control odors in the collection system. This resolution seeks authorization for a contract to purchase collective system odor and fog, fat, oil, and grease control chemicals for the City of Battle Creek Wastewater Treatment Plant and Egenix Incorporated in an estimated first-year amount of $205,500 with unit prices prevailing.
I move to accept resolution number 438.
Support.
Been moved and supported to approve Resolution 438. Are there any comments by the commission? Please vote on Resolution 438. Resolution 438 has been approved. Next item on our agenda is Resolution 439.
The applicant is seeking a special use permit to allow for a substance abuse treatment center for up to 20 inpatient residents, but will also treat patients through outpatient services. This type of business falls under the review procedure of transitional and supportive housing for more than 6 persons. The previous use of the building was similar in that it cared for hospice patients without the outpatient service. The Planning Commission held a public hearing on this matter on April 24, 2024, and after due consideration, recommended the Battle Creek City Commission approve the petition for the special use permit based upon the findings and conditions set forth in the report of the Planning Commission. This resolution seeks to approve petition S01-24, a special use permit request for approval of a transitional and supportive home, more than 6 persons in the MRF High Density Multiple Family Residential District located at 5470 Glen Cross Road.
I move to accept resolution number 439.
Support.
Been moved and supported to approve Resolution 439. Are there any comments, questions, or concerns by the commission? Commissioner Patrick O'Donnell.
I'd like to say when the previous tenants at this location, their hospice closed, I took actually many phone calls about why they closed and what a great place it was. So I am happy to see that another company has decided to take over that and put the hospice back into position in the same location. So thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Any other commission comments? Commissioner Ballard.
Thank you, Mayor. I would like to also say the same thing on that. Both my sister and my mother-in-law passed away in that facility, and it is a beautiful facility and something that is very needed in this area. So thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Any other commission comment? Seeing none, would you please vote on Resolution 439? Resolution 439 has been approved. Next item on our agenda is Resolution 440.
As permitted under the Michigan Open Meetings Act, OMA, A public body, upon a two-third majority vote, may meet in closed session in order to consult with its attorney regarding trial or settlement strategy in connection with specific pending litigation, but only if an open meeting would have a detrimental financial effect on the litigating or settlement position of the public body. The city believes an open meeting would have a detrimental financial effect on the litigation or settlement position of the public body in the above cited pending litigation. The OMA also permits a closed session to be conducted for strategy and negotiation sessions connected with the negotiation of a collective bargaining agreement if either negotiating party requests a closed hearing. In this instance, the city requests a closed hearing.
I so move to accept resolution number 440.
Support.
Been moved and supported to approve Resolution 440. Are there any comments by the commission? Seeing none, would you please vote on Resolution 440? Resolution 440 has been approved. Next item on our agenda is general public comment. If you'd like to make general public comment regarding matters over which the City Commission has control, please raise your hand. Wait for us to acknowledge you to come forward to the podium. You'll have 3 minutes to make your comment. Please state your name and address prior to beginning your comment. We're going to start with Mary.
Mary Bourgeois, 231 Springview. As I've mentioned numerous times previously, I'm a veteran and I could live anywhere in the world, and I've chosen Battle Creek. And one of my favorite forms of therapy is gardening. Therefore, I am one of the gardeners at St. Thomas, and it causes me great angst to find sleeping bags and clothes and suitcases and other items stashed around the gardens at St. Thomas. And it also causes me a lot of pain to have to call Officer Burke and say, can you please ask the night shift to increase patrols around St. Thomas because people are living here. So I was deeply troubled to hear that 209 is the Battle Creek shelter is going to be closing the end of this month. The shelter was opened in 2020 to provide relief for many underhoused folks in Battle Creek. It was provided as a place for people to sleep at night. The shelter was intended to partner with the Shear Center to provide wraparound services. Remember, the Shear Center provides meals, mental health and addiction referrals, vital records, and housing services to the marginalized residents of our city for many years. The partnership fell apart when the Battle Creek Community Foundation kind of pushed the shelter board to purchase the facility at 209 East Michigan. After the purchase, it was found that the office wing of the complex couldn't even get an occupancy permit. So there was no space for Shear Center staff, and the facility lacked a certified kitchen for meal preparation. Despite the need for an overnight low-barrier shelter, the financing of the shelter was always tenuous. The long-term funding method was never created. When faced with closing due to lack of funding, the Battle Creek Community Foundation reached out to Kingdom Builders. At that time, it was hoped that the shelter management would collaborate with the Shear Center, and that didn't happen. There was a lot of duplication of services. The shelter continued to duplicate many services provided by the Shear Center and the Haven of Rest. The shelter closing will eliminate the indoor sleeping options for almost 100 people, approximately 60 men and 12 women. While a 2-inch mat on the floor isn't much in terms of comfort, being safe and out of the weather with access to a toilet is a blessing. Yes, the Haven, may I?
No.
All right.
Sorry, Mary. Kathy, please.
Kathy Antea, Park Ridge. I'm going to continue Mary's comments.
Well, just so you know, it's your time.
Yes, sir. This is my time. Yes, the Haven of Rest and Inasmuch House will be able to accommodate some of the people, but they don't have space for all. That's why the shelter was created. I know a dozen people who use the Battle Creek shelter on a regular basis. They are currently strategizing new sleeping locations and new encampments. With limited financial resources and virtually no inexpensive rooms or apartments to rent, these folks will be sleeping outside all around our community. Generally speaking, the safest option for unhoused folks is to sleep in public areas like parks or on park benches and parking garages during the day, so that at night they can stay alert and protect themselves and their belongings. Imagine wandering the streets all night long because you don't dare close your eyes. In short order, we will be seeing more unhoused people carrying their belongings and slogging through their days. The word slogging means working really hard. The BC shelter provided these people with a consistent sleeping space, which removed one significant barrier from their life challenges. Yes, an overnight shelter for the unhoused is an expensive undertaking. But what is the cost to Battle Creek without this service? More police time spent on nuisance issues instead of serious crime, city staff time used to clean up encampments, an increase in emergency room visits as people get more exhausted and make even worse choices in their lives, increased panhandling on high-traffic street corners. Will this affect tourism and the traffic downtown and all of our community? Battle Creek has a long, proud history of compassion and promoting health. From Sojourner Truth to Bobby Holly, Battle Creek has many models that we can look to for guidance on how we must act to help our most marginalized residents and our entire community. A long-range, collaborative, customer-informed, community-driven effort must be created to support an overnight shelter for people in Battle Creek. A low-barrier overnight shelter for people in Battle Creek. We have tackled big issues in the past, darn it, and you know what I would rather say, so let's just do this. And by the way, the Department of Health and Human Services just issued a request for proposals for emergency shelter. I had to send that via email to the board of directors for the shelter. They didn't know. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Kathy. Sir, did you want to speak? All right.
How you doing? My name's Michael Hall, 217 Northeast Capitol, Apartment 5. I'm going to speak on what they said. I'm from Albion. I moved here 6 years ago, and I started at the Haven. So I'm aware of what these people are going through. It's going to cause a lot of problems here, the panhandling and all that. Since I moved here, I've buried 7 people. All of them have been murders. Only 2 of them have gotten solved. So with this situation, I'm wondering who's in charge and who made these decisions, because by me staying over here across from the Potter House, every time I sit on my porch to go upstairs to use the bathroom or get a pop or something, come back, everything I left on the porch is getting stolen. I started this stuff and I got myself out of it. I go back to the sheriff's center, places like that, to look and see, have these people changed and are they trying to get about their situation? So I think people need to come together to make this happen. I've started a nonprofit organization, so I will be reaching out to y'all. I want to get on the commission if I can, but I will be reaching out to y'all to help secure some grant money, because there's too many schools here in Battle Creek. I can't help my community of Albion, but I'm going to try to help Battle Creek because my son's here, and when he's done, I'm done. Thank you.
Thank you, Michael. Dan, did you want to speak?
Good evening, Commissioners. I'm Daniel Jones, 128 Mingus Forest Lane. I'm the Executive Director of the Haven of Rest, which is right across the street from City Hall here, and for the last nearly 70 years, we've served the population of unhoused in our community. Last year served almost 1,800 people, individuals, men, women, and children. And we served them with excellence and grace, and we intend to continue that service to anyone displaced by the closure of the Battle Creek shelter. Our intent right now and our approach to the closing of the shelter is to connect with their board of directors and with their management. We have offered the case management teams from Inasmuch House, our family and children shelter, as well as our men's shelter and our street outreach shelter, street outreach teams. And they have offered to work with the Battle Creek Shelter's current residents and guests. We have scheduled 3 days next week to be physically available on site at Battle Creek Shelter with this case management team from 8:30 in the morning to 10:30. And if we need to, those hours are flexible. We can schedule afternoon hours to accommodate everyone. We will also publish a schedule for the people to visit the Havens shelters if they need to see it, tour it, or meet with us in our offices. We're expecting as we try this approach that we may identify the need for some mental health personnel or connections to mental health services. We may see people that need our own life recovery programs, which are 12-month substance abuse treatment programs actively pursued at the Haven of Rest for both men and for women. We would connect people to rehab or detox facilities if they need that, and we may need to connect adult protective services as well. Whatever the road is, the goal will be to connect people to the assistance and strive to find them a way to exit the shelter system before May 31st when this shelter closes. We've communicated with our community organizations that serve this low-income population, like the Share Center, Safe Place, Women's Co-op, and Neighborhoods. And we've shared this plan with them. And we have offers of support from each of these organizations, which each of them telling me, basically, just tell me what you need. Regardless of these outcomes and the meetings we have next week, in a worst case scenario, if everyone in the Battle Creek Shelter showed up at the Haven's doors tomorrow morning, we would have capacity for everyone. And I want to say that again, we would have capacity for everyone. The Haven has the capacity now, has had it for the last 68 years. We've got the expertise, we've got 60 employees, and we are very strong and ready to serve this population. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Dan, for your comments. David.
My name is David Moore. I want to talk on terminals. We talked about that a couple of weeks ago. We paid all kinds of money to get people out to vote. We have programs, and we have done several things, make a lot of changes in our voting system to get people out. Now look what they want to do, turn around, make terms longer, and keep these dictators in there longer. Our enemies, our Russia and Germany, they put a dictator in there and keep them in there for life. But here in America, we can put a person in there for a year or two. I'm for a short-term limit because if we get somebody in there we don't like, or get a person that doesn't do his job, the committee votes. But we can have election 2 years, 4 years, what the terms are now. I think we can have a more freedom of choice. These people got the right. They want to make a change. They got a right to vote a person out. These conservatives, like these Trumps, want to put that person in office for 25, 30 years. That's what our enemies do, our other countries want to do. We want to keep it fair. If a person gets in there for a year or two, don't jump up, we can have a better opportunity to vote them out. So I'm for a short-term election like we were doing now, like 4 years, 6 years, whatever. And I also agree with this home there closing up. These people need places to go. Cassie came up here and said, what damage it could cause this city to be. This is necessity. Again, I've talked a number of times about our necessities. This is a necessity that we gotta have. And we should, these things are important. So I got said.
Thank you, David. Mr. Reese.
Good evening, Reese Atkins, 3600 West Michigan. I'm also going to talk on this 209 because it's a shame to see it close, but I guess a little confusion is when it was brought to my attention when I was over working at the food bank. I've been following this, and I seen an article shortly after the article came out on Facebook that they were closing 209, which is a shame. That they had said that it was because of lack of funding, but then all of a sudden, it's like 4 or 5 days later, they come out with a big article on Facebook that they've heard that Fire Station 3 is closing. So why don't we just go ahead and turn that into a homeless shelter? But wait a minute, you just said that you ain't got no money to continue to have 209 open, but yet you're gonna spend buku dollars to remodel Fire Station 3 to turn it into a homeless drop-in shelter, living shelter. Why can't you just take that money that you're going to use for Station 3 and put it into 209 and not even close it? Because it's not confirmed yet, as far as I know, from the fire department that Station 3 is even closing. So if you don't have money, why are you looking at somewhere else to put this? Use that money for what you've got now so you don't displace those people. Thanks to the Haven and Rescue Mission, because they're doing an excellent job. But 209 was open, which is a great thing. I have many friends that I've known for years that go to 209, that have been in 209. It's an excellent place from what I'm understanding. But if there's no funding, why are you looking at another building and putting out there that you're looking at the building? Put the money in 209, not close 209, and then move it somewhere else. Thank you.
Are there any other public comments? Autumn?
All right, I've spoke on the flag ordinance many, many times, and I'm speaking on it again. This is a flag that's from a group locally, Calhoun County Tea Party Patriots. If this needs to be formally in writing, then I can do that, but I'm going to make the request on the record that in July, we ask that this flag be flown on the pole out in front of City Hall. Now, I know you guys say no political organizations and there's all these exceptions and so on. This isn't a political organization. You can't vote for them on the ballot. It's an education organization. Some of them are funded through 501c3 nonprofits. Many people locally from all different walks of life come to these meetings. They have a nice dinner beforehand. Last time we watched a movie. It's a real nice social group, educational, informative, and a great another red, white, and blue flag to accompany the Old Glory we already got flying out there. So that's my first request. My second request that I'd like to comment on is the federal tax or the industrial tax exemption. I'm not that old, but I did take a class in high school. It was called civics. It may not be called that now, but it was a requirement. And one of the tenets that I learned way back then, I actually learned it before then, was called corporate fascism. And all except one of you guys just supported corporate fascism. If you don't know what that is the merger of corporations and state. That is when you guys choose to represent corporations, merge them together rather than your constituents. Just like Jake said, you guys are making all these, or these companies are making all these promises on these forms, or we might have this many jobs, we might not. You guys have no systems of checks and balances. It is antithetical to have a lack of transparency in a constitutional republic that is supposed to be represented democratically. So, I just wanted to refresh your guys' memory that you guys are sworn oath to the Constitution to represent your, to uphold and represent the Constitution of the United States and the state of Michigan. Just because there may be a public act or a law or a statute does not mean you have to uphold it. Any law that is repugnant, I'm not getting this quite right, is not supposed to be upheld. It's no law at all. So when there's a law that favors corporations in lieu of the constituents who elected you and you guys support it, you guys all just showed that you guys are corporate fascists. Thank you.
Are there any other public comments? Yes, ma'am.
I would like to go back to the housing issue that we all have talked about. There are a lot of public buildings that are empty, school buildings. Washington, I think, is still empty. I think somebody just bought Southwestern up here on Washington. Oh, and it's
Ma'am,
still empty.
You need to talk to me, all right?
Oh, I'm sorry. I apologize. So I'm thinking, I don't know what it would cost. I don't know these things very well. I haven't researched anything. But to me, that seems an ideal opportunity to go for some housing, maybe incorporate health clinics and mental health right in the buildings. They're huge buildings. They would accommodate probably 100 people easy. I mean, they held hundreds of students. So I just thought that that might be an option for the city or anybody else to think of in these, along with the empty fire stations, although I'd like one of those personally. So that was just, I wanted to make that comment because it's very needed in our community.
Thank you very much. Any other public comment? Yes, John.
John Kennefic, 234 South Avenue. I'm going to be talking about the plan about the fire stations. I attended fire station number 4 and listened to the comments from the chief, the assistant city manager, and another gentleman. They were very good presentations, but I've been through this. This is about the 4th or 5th time over every 5 years. The first time they wanted to close fire station number 3 on Cliff, that didn't fly. Then 5 years later, they wanted to close fire station number 2 on Washington. That didn't fly. This went on for a number of times, and after listening to this, I consider no change as far as where the locations are at this time for any of the fire stations. They're all strategically located. It has been mentioned a number of times that fire station number 3 on Cliff Street is old, which is more than 100 years. But the response time they're trying to guarantee us from fire station number 1 to the deepest end of Post Edition will not have a loss of time or very little loss. Well, fires burn very fast, and you can have a whole system burn down. It was also brought up by one of the firemen that we're only talking about one fire in one location at one time. What happens if 4 fires happen in Battle Creek? Similar time frame or close to each other. There's no backup. Now, I was a little concerned. I actually got a compliment from the fire chief. He said I was basically right because a long time ago, 20 years ago, I mentioned the same subject and said, put a capital improvement plan in place for the fire department. Money would be taxed, the money would be set aside, so when the time came, you could actually have the fire station without taking out a loan. It was explained to me by the assistant city manager that your taxes wouldn't go up, which always makes me nervous because I don't tend to believe assurances from the government. But it was telling us that he could make the payment out of current taxes to take out roughly a $20 million loan to do repairs on the fire stations. Now, if I was looking at Mayor Binky being elected so many years way back in the day, why wasn't a capital improvement plan put back in then so you'd never have to have a loan taken out in the first place? This is what I would call a con artist manipulation, because this situation has been developing year after year, and as I explained at the Fire Station 4 meeting, we spent $450,000 on golf carts. We spent $250,000 to resurface the full blast, half of the full blast pool. Spent money everywhere where it didn't belong and let the firemen hang out to dry. So I would suggest you get your act together before you do anything else. Thank you.
Are there any other public comments? Seeing none, are there any commission comments? Commissioner Patrick O'Donnell.
I'd like to thank the fire chief for the event that he held a couple weekends ago to make sure that our citizens had smoke detectors and CO2 detectors. That was very nice of the donation given to the community, and then we're giving it back to those homes in that area. So I just want to thank you for that event. Just want to say Battle Creek's been in the news lately due to a film, and I just think that it's really great that we're getting some promotion of this city out there in a humorous light, but at least people notice us again as the innovative capital, cereal, whatever we are. I just want to say, we love this town. We all do. We live here. We want to make this better, and it's great to have everyone come out tonight and talk about so many different issues. So I just wanted to give you a thank you for that, and we're working on it, but especially with the fire station issue. Please give us your feedback on that. We want to work on this. So that's all I really got to say, Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Any other Commissioner? Commissioner Smith.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll just say, because we have a lot of concerned citizens here, concerned about a variety of issues, all of which cost money. You can hop on the Battle Creek website, the City of Battle Creek website right now, look at our abatement tracker. Over the past 16 years, we've abated, in other words, foregone income to the tune of $46.5 million. That's $46.5 million that are not going into fundamental services here in this city. They're going to the hope and the dream that somebody will create a job somewhere. I'm not suggesting any of it's nefarious, but these are inefficient tools, and the problems we deal with today are because of the solutions we approved yesterday. In this case, big, huge abatements that last 12 years and have zero accountability behind them. So do with that what you may. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Any other commission comments? Seeing none, we're going to go into our closed-door session for a recess. So we'll go to recess at the closed-door session. We'll be back, and when we return from recess to make any actions. Thank you. We'll return from recess, and I'll call upon Commissioner Ballard.
A motion to approve the closed session minutes.
Support.
We have a motion on the floor to approve the closed session minutes. Are there any comments or questions by the commission? Seeing none, could you please vote on the closed session minutes? Can we have a screen for voting?
I'm not sure.
Would it be easier for just to read the names?
Yes.
Okay, why don't we do that then?
Okay. Commissioner Ballard?
Yes.
Commissioner Lance?
Yes.
Commissioner Morris?
Yes.
Commissioner O'Donnell?
Yes.
Mayor Banky?
Yes.
Commissioner Reynolds?
Yes.
Commissioner Simmons?
Yes.
Commissioner Smith?
Yes.
And Vice Mayor Sophia?
Yes.
Thank you.
Motion does approve. Next, Commissioner Ballard, do you have a second motion?
I have a motion to approve, I present a motion to approve the tentative agreement with the Organization of Supervisory Personnel / Sergeants and Organization of Supervisory Personnel / Lieutenants of the BCPD.
Support.
We have a motion on the floor. It's been moved and supported to approve the labor agreement. Are there any questions by the commission? Seeing none, Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Lance?
Yes.
Commissioner Morris?
Yes.
Commissioner O'Donnell?
Yes.
Mayor Banky?
Yes.
Commissioner Reynolds?
Yes.
Commissioner Simmons?
Yes.
Commissioner Smith?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Sophia?
Yes.
And Commissioner Ballard?
Yes.
Thank you.
Commissioner Ballard, one more time.
And I have a motion to approve the city attorney's recommendations in the case of Baldwin versus Friends, ETAL.
Support.
We have a motion on the floor. It's been supported. Are there any questions about the motion? Seeing none, Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Commissioner Morris?
Yes.
Commissioner O'Donnell?
Yes.
Mayor Banky?
Yes.
Commissioner Reynolds?
Yes.
Commissioner Simmons?
Yes.
Commissioner Smith?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Sophia?
Yes.
Commissioner Ballard?
Yes.
Commissioner Lance?
Yes.
Thank you.
Motion is approved. Finally, Commissioner Ballard, I believe we have one more motion.
Two. Motion to approve the city attorney's recommendation in the case of Tanner versus David Walters.
Support.
It's been moved and supported to approve the motion recommended by our city attorney. Are there any questions of the commission? Seeing none, Madam Clerk, will you please call the roll?
Commissioner O'Donnell?
Yes.
Mayor Banky?
Yes.
Commissioner Reynolds?
Yes.
Commissioner Simmons?
Yes.
Commissioner Smith?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Sophia?
Yes.
Commissioner Ballard?
Yes.
Commissioner Lance?
Yes.
Commissioner Morris?
Yes.
Thank you.
The motion does is approved. Are there any comments by the commission?
Mayor, there's one more motion.
I have one more.
Okay, sorry. Thank you.
I have a motion to authorize the hiring of outside counsel of Miller Canfield to defend this case.
Support.
Been moved and supported to hire outside counsel. Are there any questions by the commission? Seeing none, Madam Clerk, will you please call the roll?
Commissioner Reynolds?
Yes.
Commissioner Simmons?
Yes.
Commissioner Smith?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Sophia?
Yes.
Commissioner Ballard?
Yes.
Commissioner Lance?
No.
Commissioner Morris?
Yes.
Commissioner O'Donnell?
Yes.
And Mayor Banky?
Yes. Motion does approved. Now, are there any questions or comments by the commission? Hearing none, the meeting is adjourned. Thank you very much for attending.